Somebody done tried to blow up the Wallyworld.
Hey, poor! Hey, poor! Hey, poor! You don't have to be poor anymore! Jesus is here!
The loudspeaker spoke up and said, Christianity is stupid.
Greetings, fellow worker slaves, podcasting at 128 kilobits from the Fortress of Squalitude. This is the Atheist in the Trailer Park podcast. I'm your host, Tucker. Professor Fuzznuts is here getting some scritchels for me. Maybe if he's nice, he'll let me trim his nails, but probably not. This is part 2 of what'll be a 3-parter for this news episode that I recorded with X this past weekend. And the news stories aren't out of date yet, so the third segment will be going up either Friday or Saturday, depending on how much time I have. Yes, Fuzznuts, you're a good boy. As for the somebody done tried to blow up the Wallyworld comment at the beginning, there was an actual bomb placed at Walmart here in town. As a matter of fact, that Walmart is where I catch the bus, and they had evacuated the Walmart when our bus got there to drop us off when I got off of work yesterday. Now, this isn't the first time that somebody's called in a bomb threat to that particular Walmart, but it is the first time actual explosives were found. Apparently, there were 2 different bomb-type devices. I don't know all the details, as they haven't. Last I heard, they hadn't caught anybody and didn't have any suspects. Interestingly enough, the last time there was a bomb threat at Walmart, I had just left. I wasn't working that evening. This was when I was working at Wallyworld after the economy crapped out on us. I had just gotten off work and was headed out. And as I was pulling out of the parking lot, I saw everybody coming out of the store, which I thought was rather odd because, most of the people were walking out empty-handed. It was pretty clear there was a big push to get everybody out. Found out the next day that a employee who I had seen around but I didn't really know was upset at the way his coworkers were treating him. So when they went to lunch, he left, put on a dress, sat in his car, and used his cell phone to call the bomb threat in, and identified himself as Rachel Ray. I have no idea what happened to him after that, or even what led to that. I talked with some of the people who worked with him, and they said that, he'd seemed all right, but, they had mentioned that a few people had been picking on him. But, now, and as you've no doubt noticed from the download size, this one's a little smaller than a usual episode, but I chopped it up here because I knew there wasn't enough time left to cover the rest of the material X and I talked about. So we tended to gab about a variety of things while we were discussing the stories. Hope you enjoy it.
Tea Earl Grey hot.
Oh, let's see. We have the next news item. We have 3D printing human organs in space. This comes from livescience.com. Microgravity test is successful for the first time. Cardiac and vascular structures were 3D printed in microgravity environment using the adult human stem cells. 3 companies led by NASA contractor TechShot developed a space-hardened 3D bioprinter. Say that 3 times fast, because that's a sexy-ass term right there. The space-hardened 3D bioprinter. That's just awesome. We're living in sci-fi right now, people. This is amazing. It's a prototype that was used to accomplish the feature aboard a zero-G parabolic flight. So the what is it? The vomit rocket, or the vomit comet, whatever the hell you want to call it, where they go up and down, the microgravity and everything. So the benefits of the microgravity include the use of lower viscosity bioinks and more. So, I mean, that's pretty goddamn cool that they're able to 3D print the stuff in low gravity. And I guess the next step would be no gravity.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
I mean, there's no such thing really. We know this, but very low gravity instead of, microgravity, even less than that.
Well, in that, obviously they're using a hugely complicated 3D printer.
Yeah.
But,
I can only imagine how fun it was loading that shit onto the airplane.
but what gets me is on Earth, they have 3D printed a frog heart that works, and they used a modified standard HP inkjet printer. So that should give
you an idea of how precise those printers really do print.
Yeah, and it's like, let's give these guys a few, say $2 billion and see what they can come up with.
Yeah, these guys are all of the modern science that you're seeing nowadays is like such a shoestring budget that it's just not even funny. If we were working on like late 1960s or early 1960s kind of budgets and everything, it would be amazing the kind of shit we'd be able to pull off.
Oh yeah. Because in 1965, NASA's budget was $20 billion. In 2016, NASA's budget is $20 billion.
Ugh. That does not account for 50 years of fucking inflation.
No.
Even that was before we went off the gold standard. Christ, man.
Yeah, it's I mean, their idea is, well, we'll 3D print these stuff in space so that, if we have people on their way to Mars and they need a new bladder or something like that, we can figure out how to do it. But it's like, Jesus, give these people $1 billion and let them go loose, because we could probably come up with some insanely cool crap.
I mean, how cool would it be to be like, oh, my kidney's failing. Well, let's just go to the shop and get you a new one,
Yeah, no.
And it doesn't even have to be official. It could be the real goddamn thing. So
yeah, no worries about having to take anti-rejection drugs.
Or, having it repoed on you, like Repo the Musical, or...
Well, somebody did a movie. I guess it wasn't very good, but
Repo Man.
It was about where people, would get an organ transplant and wouldn't have the money, and they would come and repo their organs.
I think that was the name of it, because I remember what's his name? The guy that played Sabretooth was one of the actors in it. God, what's his name? I'll look it up real quick.
Liev Schreiber,
yeah. He played I think he played the villain in that movie.
I don't know. He was...
Yeah, because the good guy was Jude Law. Yeah, Repo Man, 2010. Really good movie. Forrest Whitaker was in it. I quite enjoyed that movie. A lot of people didn't, but that's because people don't know what they'd like or not.
I haven't seen it. I know.
Yeah, Liev Schreiber was the bad guy. I remember that much.
Yeah, I know him solely from his role in Spotlight.
You should watch Ray Donovan on Showtime. God damn, what a good show. He plays a... Did you ever see... of course you've seen Pulp Fiction.
I saw up until Travolta jabs Uma Thurman in the heart.
Okay, so you never saw the character of not really. God, I can't remember the guy's name, but he's working to help these guys get rid of a body, kind of thing. Anyway, Ray Donovan has Liev Schreiber playing a fixer in Hollywood, where he makes problems disappear. And God damn, he's a really good actor for a really good show. I quite enjoy it. It's what I'd be doing if I wasn't podcasting.
No, he's definitely a good actor. He was great in Spotlight. I've seen interviews with the guy he was playing, Marty somebody. And it's like, whoa, that's really creepy how well they, how well the two line up.
That's when you can spot a good actor right there.
Yeah.
Let's see. What's the next one we got, Tucker?
Next one is from Fast Coexist. MIT's 3D printed hair is way more useful than normal hair.
Well, no shit.
MIT can now 3D print hair, but unless you're going for the Andy Warhol look, then this hair isn't for heads. The plastic filaments can be used as sensors to move things and, like animal hair, as insulation. But the hair's uses aren't the most impressive thing about it. What's extraordinary is that it can be printed at all.
Sounds to me a lot like carpet. I know it's more than that.
Yeah. Well, the thing that gets me is if you watch the video with the article is, they show it moving around. It's a disc, but they call it a coin. But that's what somebody years ago, that's how they described nano factories working, is that you would have hair-like objects moving things around and assembling them. So it's like, this is, as neat as...
To bring up my second Neil Stephenson, reference this episode, there's a book called The Diamond Age where it talks about nanomachines and everything. Goddamn good book.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, well, if they can do this now, in a few years, they're going to be able to actually build the nano fabrication things, and that's when technology gets really interesting.
I'm still waiting for the singularity to happen. That's all I'm waiting for.
Yeah.
We've got Raspberry Pi beating AI beating normal people, so we're close.
Yeah. We are close. It's depending on how you measure brain power, we're going to hit the singularity really within the next 5 or 10 years.
And it's going to have a Microsoft fucking product placement on it.
Well, it might
apparently
have
they're
an
working
Apple placement on it.
Well, yeah. I actually am going to be jumping the ecosystem here pretty soon from Windows to OS X. So because that tends to work better for us podcaster people out there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one nice thing about Apple is they strip everything down and it's like you can do it, but you can only do it one way, and that's it, which is better than, well, you can do it this way, but then you have to do this thing and this other thing, and then, or you can do it this other way, but you have to do this or that or whatever.
And I don't want to incite any kind of flame war with your podcast or anything, but I went from Apple to Android and then finally back to Apple because I really got tired of having 16 different ways of doing shit.
Yeah. I mean, I have an iPod Touch. I have a Motorola G phone, and there are some nice things about the.
There really are. I'm not going to shit on Android. I love Android.
No,
but the thing is, when it comes to, I just need a phone that works.
Yeah, that's it. The one thing is
I don't have to wait. I don't have to wait 7 or 8 months for a new version of my OS to come out to download it, which I was getting with Samsung shit. Well,
what gets me is with mine is it'll suddenly decide, oh, there's an update, so even though you're using the app, I'm going to update it now. It's like, what? And when you're having an indecent conversation with somebody,
you don't exactly want a app to fucking update.
No.
But titties.
Give me the boobs. Don't update.
Let's see. The next news item we have here. Sorry to cut you short on that one. A cancer survivor receives a new jaw, thanks to new 3D printing techniques, which is, this is akin a lot to the making a brain pan that's about the same thing from like plastic 3D printing kind of thing. But this is amazing because, you know, a skull honestly shouldn't be doing much for you unless it's receiving a hit. Yeah. But a jaw is a very much working piece of your head.
Yeah.
And so they have a 3D printing technique that can now make prosthesis jaws. So he found the doctors found a lump on this specific patient's tongue, Shirley Anderson, in 98, and shortly after he began radiation treatments, and he underwent a radium implant to help him replace some of his lower jaw, but it didn't work. So he turned to prosthetics. And Travis Bellici, a doctor of maxillofacial wow, that's a big word to say when you're half drunk. Prosthodontics, a resident in Indiana University, made the man a traditional prosthesis out of clay, but it was so large and uncomfortable that he could only wear it for hours at a time. So Bellici started looking for a digital solution and eventually turned to 3D printing. And according to Formlabs, a digital model of Anderson's face was created to capture bone detail so that researchers could test a much lighter prosthesis for their patent. And so essentially they made him a 3D jaw. I didn't see exactly what material it's made out of, but it's a lot better than the clay one that he was using. Christ, could you imagine using a clay jaw?
Well, they I mean, it's not only a jaw bone that they made for him, apparently, but it's a facial structure as well.
So it replaced a lot of the maxilla as well. I didn't see the entire.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can click. Like,
there's if you dig down in the article, that you can see that they that if you scroll down, you can see that, you know, the guy goes around with a surgical mask, and then they gave him, you know, a lower face.
Yeah, he can't talk, and he's worse off than you had with oh God, what was the movie reviewer guy's name? That
Roger Ebert. Well, that was
Ebert.
That was the thing. Like shortly before, I mean, within like 2 months before he died, there was a patient in the Netherlands or one of those countries in the spoon of Europe, whether it was Norway, Sweden, the Netherlands, or something like that. But, you know, that part of Europe, who she was in her 80s, and they 3D printed her a jawbone. And, you know, Ebert, they had tried a couple of times to create him an artificial bone to give him a jaw so he could eat again. And every time it failed, and he just gave up after a while, which is why he had that weird face. And like I said, you know, I saw a news story about that a couple of months before he died, and I actually sent it to him saying, hey, maybe you want to look into this. I know you don't want any more surgeries, but this might give you a jaw so you can start talking again. But
yeah. Well, and as I saw from I just clicked on the video as you were talking here, and I saw that he looked like a normal guy after they put in the fake jaw there.
Yeah.
And, I mean, he's not going to be able to do a whole lot with it. Probably still can't chew. Probably still can't do a lot of stuff with it. But it looks more natural than, you know, having a giant thing strapped around your face. And it looks a lot better than having a surgical mask. So,
yeah.
I mean, we're honestly only a couple of years away from this guy being able to have, you know, something built out of stem cells and then grafted onto his face and then, you know, fixing everything that he had. So, God, technology is great.
Yeah. It's... you know, and I can remember seeing there was a book written after World War I, which was called War Against War, and they showed all the people who had been, you know, horribly scarred, injured by the First World War, and one of the guys they had a photo of had lost his lower jaw.
Yeah.
And it was just like, oh my God, that's horrifying. I mean, he didn't even have, you know, the benefits of modern plastic surgery to try and cover stuff up. I mean, you know, there was a tongue hanging out of a hole in the neck, basically.
Oh, God. Like living Cuban necktie.
Yeah.
Christ.
Yeah, that's...
Ugh. I feel bad for people that have to go through life like that. It's terrible to have to rely on a prosthesis for you to at least have the semblance of being normal. And I'm not saying, as an ableist kind of thing, like you have to look normal or anything like that. But obviously the guy knows that if he's having to wear a surgical mask during his normal day to day and he puts on a prosthesis to make him look normal, he realizes that, look, it's going to cause a lot of people issues if they see just like everything hanging out. If you see just a trachea, just right there. And
well, and not only that, I mean, just having a mouth and a jaw and stuff like that protects you from, getting
lots of stuff. Yeah.
Getting crap in your mouth and then diseases and infections.
God, I feel bad for this guy. So what's next, Tucker?
All systems go. Prepare for countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's off to adventure in the amazing year 400 billion with Commander Hard-Headed Playful Companion Cadet City as they roam the endless uncharted regions of space at speed so fantastic space levels the imagination. Prepare to surge to sublight speed.
From universetoday.com, we have now witness the power of this fully operational radio telescope.
Oh, you need to say it with the Palpatine voice. Now witness the power of this fully operational radio telescope.
Relax, it's not a space station, and according to the Chinese government, it's for entirely peaceful purposes. It's known,
wink.
Yeah. It's known as the 500-meter aperture spherical telescope FAST, a massive array that just finished construction in the southwestern province of Guizhou, China, equivalent in size to over 20 football fields. I wonder if that's football, American football, or the Inferno soccer.
500 meter. That's is that the radius or is that the diameter? I wonder.
Yeah, I don't know.
So if it's 500 meter, I would think they were probably going for, because it's a round structure. I think they would be going with radius. So it's 1,000 meters. So that's 3,000 feet plus. So it's more like 10 American football fields. I don't know if like soccer pitches are bigger, but I'm just going by America. That's all I know.
America's all you need to know.
I told my mom earlier this week about how America and like 2 other countries are the only ones still holding on to imperial fucking like measurements and everything. She's like, oh yeah, I remember back when I was a kid saying we're going to learn metric when we get older. We still ain't. Nope, we have not, Mother.
Nope, because that's just how we do things around here. Damn.
That shit's too hard to change around. 5,280 feet's a mile.
Well, if Thomas Jefferson had more money, he would have developed the metric system before the French did. Because he was working on that and had to put it on hold because he needed to focus on making money to keep up his plantation.
Well, you know what's going to change it for us, Tucker, is when the world finally switches to a metric clock.
The French developed that. They had a weird system that they came up with after the French Revolution, and it was like, wow, that doesn't make any sense at all. I mean, because because they had. I mean, you had, how you say it's like 10:30 now. They had like 14 different things they would have to say to give you the equivalent of 10:30.
Oh, Jesus.
That's how crazy it was. But it's like, of course, considering the fact that our time system is based on things the Babylonians came up with way back when, it's going to be hard to shed.
The mental gymnastics I have to pull whenever I start thinking about, okay, 52 weeks a year, 7 days in those 52. That's 364 days. What the fuck happens with that other day?
Somebody, and I don't remember who it is, but Kodak.
Yeah.
I think it was Kodak used it. They had I guess you'd call it a metric calendar, that it worked out to 300 and some odd days a year. It wasn't 365, so they'd had a couple of free days a year, but every month They had 13 months in a year. Every one of them was like 28 days or 30 days. They were all the same. You know, there was no, well, this month's 28, this one's 30, this one's 31.
Yeah.
It was all the same, and that's how they did their internal calendar from like the 20s up until 20 years ago.
Well, I operate old ass financial systems for the U.S. government, and our dates on the systems and everything are Julian date. So we don't even give a shit about what month or what day it is. We just know that, like, let's see, I think we just barely got past like 190. I think that was Friday. So it is now the 192nd day of the year.
Yeah. But
or some shit like that. Yeah.
But their system was set up so that, you know, every, like, July 4th would always fall on the same day of the week every year.
There's something to be said about that kind of regularity.
Yeah, yeah. But anyways, the thing I find particularly cool about this radio telescope is that it's 10 times more sensitive than its closest competitor, which is the 100-meter telescope near Bonn, Germany. And it can do a lot of things that the Arecibo telescope in Puerto Rico can't. Now, the thing that this article doesn't talk about, which is kind of important, most people don't know that one of the big funders of the SETI program was the CIA. Because the technology for SETI requires them to be able to scan thousands of radio frequencies in a very short period of time. And the CIA likes to listen in on all kinds of radio conversations, so they love to invest in technology that makes it possible to invest, to scan thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of radio frequencies in a very short period of time. So it's like, while it's cool and all that the Chinese are developing a radio telescope so we can get, more information about the universe and possibly find out, where the aliens are and what they're up to. At the same time, you need to remember, they have other possibilities with it.
Well, it's kind of cool that we have this, what do they call it? The FAST? Is that what the acronym came out to be? But it's not going to mean shit when it comes to the James Webb Space Telescope that we have coming up.
Oh, yeah. That's
going to be so goddamn awesome. I can't wait for the images that thing produces.
I know. I mean, I've seen the pictures of it, and the technology just in building it is mind-boggling, because it's all precision machining. They've got, and they have to have it in special isolated machines because they're building it out of beryllium.
Yeah.
Which is a toxic metal.
But out in space, no fucks given.
Well, beryllium is fine, as long as it's not, you're not inhaling the shavings from it.
Yeah.
It's like asbestos. If you have a certain genetic makeup, it'll give you cancer. If you don't have a certain genetic makeup, it won't bother you at all.
It's like the uranium tailings we have out here in Utah. Google that, guys. So let's see. What's the next one that we have here, Tucker? We have a Wakey Wakey. This is from space.com. Juno spacecraft turns on science gear at Jupiter, which I find just goddamn hilarious that the scientists decided to create a satellite called Juno that's going to be approaching Jupiter, and all of Jupiter's moons were named after his, his girlfriends, and now his wife's coming home to roost. So the Juno spacecraft is opening its eyes to prepare for its first good look at Jupiter. The 9 science instruments were off when the probe entered orbit around the solar system's largest planet on 4th of July. which is goddamn amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing to think that, the same time that Ken Ham is opening a goddamn ark.
Yeah, exactly.
To explain how the world began, we are essentially putting into the orbit of Jupiter for like the next 50 something days a spacecraft that's going to report on everything that Jupiter has to offer. So they powered up 4 of the 5 of those instruments on Wednesday, July 6th, and plans to turn on the other 4 before the end of the month. Juno should be ready to gather some science data when it makes its close pass by the huge planet on August 27th. It's on a current 53-day orbit around Jupiter. So the next time around, it says that they will have their eyes and ears open, says the principal investigator, Scott Bolton, of the Southwest Research Institute in San Antonio. Now, you can expect us to release some information about our findings around September 1st, because it takes quite a while for that information to come back to here.
Yeah.
And then they have to look at it. So it only cost them $1.1 billion. And it launched in August 2011.
Or a day in Iraq.
Yeah, shit. Just imagine the amount of spacefaring that we could have been doing with the $13 trillion that we've wasted on that shit. So it aims to help scientists better understand Jupiter's magnetic and gravitational fields, composition, and interior structure, in particular, whether the huge planet harbors a core of heavy elements, which is something that's always boggled my imagination with these giant gas giants that you have. Like, there has to be something solidified within the middle of it, because the pressure and, the composition of it, I just could not imagine that it's gas all the way throughout.
Yeah. Well, and nobody knows what that core could be. It could be metallic hydrogen, which is...
Yeah. Be fucking awesome.
Well, it could be metallic hydrogen. It could be a diamond.
Yeah, that's true.
And the interesting thing about metallic hydrogen is that it may be like Ice 9 from Cat's Cradle by Vonnegut, where once you use massive amounts of pressure to create it, you can release the pressure and it'll still stay. So, and I know that they've talked about, metallic hydrogen might work really good for computer chips.
Be amazing. I don't know how you would first, how would you mine that? Because I can't think of a method where you would be able to go into a core of a gas giant that had formed something like this and then somehow extract something with it. But that's why we're sending probes out there. So
yeah. And the other really cool thing about Juno is it's the first solar-powered probe sent to, sent past Mars.
It's goddamn cool, especially that it arrived on target.
Yeah.
With minor adjustments,
Yeah,
it's so goddamn cool. I love science. But it's just amazing.
Before this, they could only, the solar panels weren't good enough to use them that far out from the sun. And then now they're good enough that they can send it all the way to Jupiter.
I had a fun little conversation with one of my young ones earlier today about how we were sitting out in the middle of a shopping mall here in Utah, and it was goddamn hot. Like, it was really hot. Like, sitting on anything was uncomfortable because it was over 100 degrees, like, to sit on something.
Yeah. And
I was like, okay, we're apparently like 8 light minutes away from the sun. Yeah. Let me just give or take, whatever you want to say. I'm like, that means it takes light 8 minutes to reach from the sun to us here at Earth. And I'm like, and with that comes with the other energy that comes with the sunlight that hits the planet. I'm like, just imagine how much hotter things are closer to, like in Mercury or Venus, or how much colder they are further past that. I'm like, it's goddamn neat to think about that kind of thing. And I love that I could pass that down to kids where I'm like, just imagine for 1 second, that.
Well, it's like the great red spot on Jupiter is twice the size of the Earth.
Just mind-boggling kind of information like that.
Yeah. And, God created that, created the Earth in a day, or, he created the rest of the universe in a day, and, a hurricane on Jupiter is twice the size of the Earth? That don't add up.
Or to go back to Ken Ham and his stupid ass arc that he has that's existing here in Kentucky. If the universe was created 6,000 years ago, explain diamonds, you dumbass.
Somebody
explain cuneiform, explain, South American. There's just so much stuff where it's just like, we have relics. We have words from these people at this time when your quote unquote great flood happened. And
there are, as Bill Nye says, there are trees older than what you think the earth are.
And actually one of them here is here in Utah. We have a system of quakey trees that are older than the fucking flood.
But, it's somebody tried to hand wave the whole thing away by saying, well, okay, no, God created everything like it's described in the Bible, but he filled in the rest of the universe later on. I'm like, no.
And I don't know if you paid attention to any of the pictures that people have been posting from the Ark exhibit, but he has dinosaurs.
Yeah.
On the fucking Ark, man. It's like, why are you adding that extra layer of bullshit that you have to explain away?
Well, have you seen the children's book that he has? It shows Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden and velociraptors picking fruit and handing it to Adam and Eve.
Oh, Answers in Genesis is so goddamn batshit. I can't believe it.
I know.
Okay, what's next?
And from Habitat.com, we have newly discovered planet with 3 suns has triple sunsets and sunrises.
So it's 33% more awesome than Tatooine.
Yes. 3 suns in the sunset. No, the Pink Floyd song is 2 suns in the sunset.
Yeah.
Somewhere out in the universe is an exoplanet with not 1, not 2, but 3 suns. A team led by astronomers from the University of Arizona used the European Southern Observatory's Very Large Telescope to find HD 131399AB, an exoplanet in what's called a triple star system. The cool space discovery could mean there are more planets and multi-star systems than we thought. So, pitch black could be real.
Honestly, when I see news items like this, I'm like, whatever you think could possibly happen within the universe has probably happened and will happen again at some point.
What was it Heinlein said? If you can conceive of it, it exists somewhere in the universe.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. But the thing remarkable about this is that it's the first time we've discovered a planet that orbits 3 suns that's actually in a stable orbit. Normally, they're not
going all
in a stable
wiggly.
orbit.
Yeah.
So that's just, fucking awesome. I'm just amazed at all these exoplanets that we're able to find.
And it's not even a trinary star system. It's not like a 3 within the center.
Yeah.
It's an exoplanet where it's revolving around a sun that has 2 suns revolving around it. So
yeah.
It's so fucking awesome, man.
the dynamics of that must be insane.
And we're discovering these things on the daily. We're seeing shit like this all the time. And so that just brings me back to the James Webb, the very large array or whatever the hell they're going to be calling it, where like, just imagine the amount of crazy shit we're going to be able to spot within the known universe when we get that thing set up.
Yeah. And you think about a civilization which evolves on such a planet. I mean, we know that probably not most, all religions, derive their God figure is the sun. Well,
yeah.
What's a religion on a planet with 3 suns going to be like?
Polytheistic.
Probably.
It would have to be. That's just really goddamn cool. And I just love that science is coming out with cool stuff like this every week, while the creationists are still reveling in their, there was a flood 6,000 years ago.
We built a giant boat that probably couldn't actually float because we didn't really worry about waterproofing it.
Well, and this ship was made before they invented nails. But we put it together with nails because God said we should.
and we've got high tensile strength steel involved in the.
Oh man. None of this was made with none that go for wood.
We don't even know what that is.
And I wouldn't even bother to. I never saw the Russell Crowe movie. No. The Noah movie. I just kind of refused to. And it was really funny for me when my mom came over. She said, that wasn't real to the story, none at all.
Well, apparently.
I was like, oh no. Did you really just say
apparently, a lot of the things that people complained about are actually in the Bible, but because all anybody knows about Noah is from the Cecil B. DeMille film. They
See, and I learned Noah from the Disney, animated, it was like a stop motion animation from when I was a little kid. You'd have to go out there and Google it, but it's like a Disney 1950, 40 animated thing where it was a story of Noah. Boy, it was just terrible. I remember watching it quite often. And then there of course was the Bill Cosby, he's not somebody you want to refer to nowadays, but the story that he told about Noah and all that fun stuff. But, man, it blows my mind that we are firing satellites into fucking Jupiter and taking 5 years to get there, traveling at an average of 16,000 miles per hour, or even faster than that, I believe. Meanwhile, we got an Australian in Kentucky getting nonprofit status for a fucking giant boat that can't float.
Yeah. And
then we have people that think that Stanley Kubrick made the moon landing and all this other shit.
Oh God. And by the way, have you watched 2001 lately?
In the last 10 years, yes. Because it's still, I got it on Blu-ray, and god damn it, that movie still holds up.
Oh yeah. But the thing that just sticks out at me is, when they're on the moon and they've, excavated the monolith and, there's the guy there with the wind up Hasselblad camera. It's like, no, you got a lot of stuff right, Stan, but the Hasselblad, no.
There was oh my god, it was a guy obviously trying to get a master's degree in cinema. Or, film critique or something like that, where he's talking about how the monolith was actually supposed to be a realization of the people within the movie, that they realized that they were being watched by an audience kind of thing. How it holds the same dimensions as the super widescreen that the original 2001 was shown at, where this was back when, movie theaters had the gimmicks where they showed the movies on 3 different screens that were supposed to wrap around you kind of thing. But it was an amazing decomposition of everything where, anytime people looked at the camera, they realized that they were seeing an audience. And that's when they started to go, when, Dave went through the monolith and everything. And when he looked at the monolith and he was all of a sudden old, and it was a really great, theory. I mean, it's all complete bullshit, but it's just, I love when I read something where somebody obviously spent a good 20 to 30 hours of their life writing this thing.
And people thought I was crazy when I said, now that I think about it, actually getting to the moon is not really that significant of an achievement when you're talking about a civilization which can travel from one star system to another. So why would they pick the moon to put a monolith on?
It's the next logical step there, Tucker.
Yeah, but
the apes found it on the planet, and then the slightly more evolved apes found it on the moon, and then the next ones go to Jupiter.
Yeah, it makes sense to us because, we're
thinking of baby steps, but
a large.
Just think of that in reverse, like the spacefaring culture that dropped the stuff out.
Would they consider?
We'll leave one here, and then we'll put one here on the moon, and then we're going to put another one on the planet because fuck these apes.
It's one of those things. It's like, okay, so would we consider it significant that somebody took a canoe to an island that's half a mile offshore?
I mean, because honestly, in the grand scheme of things on 2001, the moon is a relatively short distance from Earth.
Right.
I mean, we're talking, 300,000 miles, give or take?
Yeah, depending on where it is, 250,000 on average. But yeah, it's so I would.
And you think about Fords that have, not Fords, Chevys have them more mileage than that.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're digressing.
Yeah.
Let's see. I think that's all we have for science, isn't it, Tucker?
Yeah. I need to refill my beverage, so.
Okay, cool. I'll take a break real quick.
Then we'll do the next section. Oh!
Politics.
That's it for another episode of The Atheist in the Trailer Park Podcast. You can subscribe to the show on iTunes. It's also available on Stitcher. Follow the show on Twitter at TParkAtheist and on Facebook at facebook.com/trailerparkatheist. Email Tucker at trailerparkatheist@gmail.com. Show notes can be found at tparkatheist.blogspot.com. Thanks for listening.
Say goodnight, Fuzz-Nuts.
All I know is this violates every canon of respectable broadcasting.
Damned cat.